Optimist versus pessimist.
Oh, yes. I was recently lectured on optimism in a very nice conversation with a Harvard scholar, and he told me you should be more anchoring on hope than optimism. And I said, educate me on the difference. And he said, optimism is the assumption of good things, and hope is the openness to good things.
Mhm.
And if you're an optimist, you have as a principle that the good thing will happen. And in a way, you deprive the
Yes.
environment of its freedom to operate one way or the other. And it doesn't invite people to collaborate because why would they if you know that things are going to happen in a positive way? And for the first time, and this is why I'm so grateful to, by the way, to be living in Cambridge, to be surrounded by all those smart people who would question anything like you just did in this conversation. In the end, my greatest pleasure in life is to meet with smart people who ask smart questions.
Hmm.
Nothing beats this. And that man who was a renowned professor, and with a lot of experience, but like would question my take because I was pushing myself as an optimist, and he said, "You're probably more a hopeful person than an optimist."
Mhm.
And um, and he educated me in that conversation to cultivate hope versus optimism because it's more inviting to others. It,
Mhm.
it simply acknowledges the fact that we don't know for sure that
Mhm.
good things are going to happen, that we turn towards them, that we express the wish for them to happen, that we will do what we can for them to happen, but that we also acknowledge that we don't have everything under control and that we need everyone's help to make them happen.
It's like
Mhm.
optimism is almost like a statement of fact, and hope is a statement of intent.
That's exactly right. And the statement of
Yes.
intent invites others' intent to join it.
Others,
And
yes,
and I
exactly.
think it's probably quintessential to rebels at work or rebels in life.
Yes,
Like
Mhm.
if you're an optimist to some degree,
Mhm.
why would you be rebel? Because everything's gonna end up in the right place.
Mhm.
exactly,
That's right.
exactly.
And optimists don't do well psychologically because they inevitably
Yeah. Oh, well,
discover that they're wrong.
I have done very poorly psychologically. Let me tell you right there, Julia. Like this is for another conversation, but I have been straight into hell and back from hell, and it's of
Right. No,
course,
that
yeah.
Google optimism was kind of like that. It was like, no, it's going to turn out great. Technology is going to solve everything. And that isn't so helpful either because it doesn't acknowledge that life can throw a
And
curveball.
and the current circumstances, not to get into political things, but the current circumstances, the turn that so many technology savants have made seemingly into ideas about controlling others. I'll
Hmm.
just I'll just state it that way, is a useful warning to all of
Hmm.
us about what about what can happen when we always believe everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I remember a quote from Kennedy saying that the ultimate achievement in politics was to keep your ideal when you've lost all your delusions. And uh,
Yes.
and I
Oh.
I think it's almost a life statement, right?
Mhm.
I'm now in my mid 50s, so I've been pretty much educated by real life about the kind of optimism that I did have when I was a teenager. And now I am de facto more hopeful than optimist because I realize that bad things can happen and have happened and will happen again. And uh, the same way that I would invite anyone to work on themselves to welcome change at the right distance, in which we discussed, I would also invite anyone to welcome a state in which they know how to preserve their ideals as they lose all of their delusions,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that's okay. That's okay. And you know how it is, because I think you hinted to this when you said this. A lot of time, people uh, that we know around us or will be in a moment of depression. And the common reaction is, oh my God, him, her in depression, that was such an upbeat person, such a vibrant person. And of course, now in my mid 50s, I can say with a relative degree of confidence that yes, it's because they were an upbeat person that they're in
Yes,
depression.
yes, yes.
If you're a grumpy person who's completely deflated in
Right,
general
right,
and expects the worst out of life, you don't have a lot of reasons to be depressed because that's
right.
exactly what you thought would happen. And so it's And so I think that's the fine line to walk, that your ideal cannot be attached to your expectations, which I call now your delusions in the way of Kennedy. That yes, you're going to meet people who have different intent from yours, and sometimes nefarious intent. That yes, you will be faced with human nature, which is not always beautiful, uh, but sometimes also is beautiful, right? Like there's the whole gamut is there in
Right.
front of us. And yes, if you've read too many comics when you're a teenager, you're going to be surprised at the reality of life, which is not a comic by any means. But at the end of the long disillusionment that needs to happen, you become more and more efficient, more and more attentive to the diversity of perspectives, and able to gather those perspectives into effectiveness for real change, which should be our objective there. And if you have been able to preserve your ideals and you went through this fairly undamaged, then what an extraordinary position to be, to go from an open-eyed perspective on to the extent that we can on the reality of the world, yet with a very strong ideal at heart, and invite everyone into the hope, right?
Yes. You remind me of something I said a lot in my 20s. I haven't said very often since, but in my 20s, I had this realization that romantics are actually the cynics, and
Mhm.
cynics are actually the romantics. So the romantic is the person who's just going to pretend everything is all right, even though they inwardly know it isn't. And that's actually a cynical position. And the cynic is the one who's unhappy because the world is not better than it is. And that's actually a romantic position. So I leave you with that.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you.
So
What a wonderful time.
a wonderful time.
I,
Chef's
yeah,
kiss.
wonderful.